Good morning, everyone. Yesterday, we have already discussed about a new chapter in English. That was a letter to God, a story about faith, a story about human faith in the Almighty, right? So this story is about a poor farmer Lenko whose harvest gets destroyed by the hailstorm. He's left devastated as his family's livelihood, its survival depends on the annual crop. In a dismay, he writes a letter to God, right? And he asks for 100 pesos so that his family could survive through this drastic situation. He goes to the post office to post his letter, where the post office people and the postmaster, when they receive his letter, firstly they laugh at it, but then, right, giving it a deeper thought, they decide they decide to help Lenko. Why they decide to help Lenko? Because they don't want this chain of faith between human and God to get broken. They want this chain of faith to remain intact. They want Lenko's faith in the Almighty to remain intact. And that is why, right, the postmaster, taking help of his other colleagues, decides to help Lenko and arranges 70 pesos, right? 70 pesos he arranges, and on the above of the letter he writes, "Dear Lenko, from God." Now when Lenko receives the letter, he's not shocked to receive the letter. Instead, he is disappointed. Why is he disappointed? Because he demanded for 100 pesos and he received only 70 pesos. Now this shows a negative character, a negative quality of Lenko, that instead of being thankful to the Almighty that he received help from him, maybe no matter who the source was, no matter who the people were, right, but directly indirectly it was the help which he was receiving from God, right? Instead of being thankful, he was disappointed that there were 30 pesos less. He goes back home and decides to write another letter, and in that letter he writes ki, "I know you would have sent all the 100 pesos, but these post office people are not trustworthy, and I have a doubt that they have stolen my 30 pesos." Now the story ends here, right? The people who have helped him, he end up blaming those people, the people who helped Lenko with a good heart, right? He ultimately he ended up blaming those people. Now first of all, you people will go through this chapter. You will read it thoroughly. Once you read it thoroughly, mark down all the hard words and word meanings with pronunciation. Select 5 words, write down their synonyms and antonyms, and make 2 sentences each. Then there's a homework for you people. That is, draw a colorful storyboard for the chapter A Letter to God. And you will also draw character sketch of Lenko. Now, your today's chapter is Fire and Ice. Fire and Ice is written by Robert Frost. Robert Frost's poem Fire and Ice expresses the profound idea what the world would end in either of the two ways, either by ice or fire. Now there is a scientific reason also for it, and there is the human reason also for it, right? It is often said, that the earth will either because the way the earth temperature is increasing, so it will become a fireball and there will be an end of earth, or there will be an ice age and that would lead to the end of the earth. This is the scientific reason which is given to the end of the earth, right? One, it is said that with the rising global warming, with the rising temperature of the earth will ultimately turn into a fireball, and that would lead to the end of the earth. Another reason is that an ice age would come, and that would lead to the end of the earth. But this is the scientific reason. Now there is another reason also. There is another point of view to this chapter. That is the coldness we have in our heart, right? The coldness which people are carrying in that heart, and the fire of and the fire which they have to achieve everything. This self-destructing human emotions of hatred and desire will lead to the end of the earth, right? So both the components are compared with self-destructing human emotions, hatred and desire. The poem very artistically underpins the philosophy that we let our emotions rule us, and if don't control them, they will surely destroy everything around us. Similarly, he thinks fire and ice both are just as competent in bringing the world to a catastrophic end. Robert Frost's poem Fire and Ice is a strong symbolic poem where fire is used as the emotion of desire and ice that of hatred, the coldness which we carry in our heart towards each other. And the emotion of desire means the desire ki come on, we'll achieve everything, we will surpass everything. That desire to achieve everything, that desire to snatch away everything, that is compared to fire. And the coldness in the heart is referred to as ice, the coldness of hatred which we have in our heart. He has used the idea of two groups who have their own possible explanation for the end of the world. One is of the opinion that fire alone can destroy each and every possibility of life on earth, while the other thinks that if ice, as a result of extreme low temperature, could cover the earth's surface, it would lead to the end of the world. But the components compared with self destructing human emotions, desire, and hatred. Now, the poet is originally of the opinion that he has been very closely associated with the feisty desires and considers it capable of bringing human beings on the verge of destruction. Thus, he considers fire as more competent for destruction. But then he thinks that icy hatred is just as capable of ruining humans, though slowly and steadily. Therefore, if earth was to end twice, ice would be just as good as fire. If fire would lead to rapid destruction, ice would lead to silent damage. Similarly, if fire is pure passion, ice is pure reason. Thus, the poem very artistically underpins the philosophy that we let our emotions rule us, and if don't control them, they will surely bring us all on the verge of chaos. Now, I have given you two explanations, two different point of views. One is the scientific one, right? Scientists have their own explanation for the end of the world, right? Because the way the global warming is increasing, they say the earth will turn into a fireball, and that would lead to the end of the earth. Another is an ice age would come, and that would lead to the end of the earth. If we see it from the human perspective, right, fire is associated, if we see it from the human emotions perspective, fire is seen as the desire and your ice is seen as the hatred which we carry in our heart, and both have the same capability to damage things. If we don't control our emotions, right, our desires will lead to the destruction of the earth, and so will the icy hatred which we carry in our heart. Now, class, you will go through this poem once, then you will go through this explanation. If any query is there, you are free to ask me on your WhatsApp group. Now, this is your homework. You will draw the theme of the poem showing different perspectives. One the scientific one and the other is human emotions, right? So draw the theme of the poem showing different perspectives which would lead to the destruction of the world. Thank you.